everybody. How you doing? I am Johan. That in the orange bunny hug there is Mr. Charleston Hughes.
Ready to go hunting some wabbits.
Yeah. Nice hunting outfit for the February time here. Joining us today, we have a fantastic guest. Joining us from Charlotte, North Carolina. We have, I asked him what his official title was, and he goes like, oh, I'm just a dude, a sports enthusiast, and a financial expert that's going to help educate not only us, but a lot of the CFL fans, NFL, CFL players, everybody that it's out there. Mr. Ryan Schachtner. Ryan, how you doing? We got Charleston's kids even yelling, screaming them for you right there.
I love it. I got duct tape around my kids' mouths so they don't make any noise on this. So I'm doing great, guys. I'm glad to be here. I'm ready to have some fun.
Right on, right on. And that's what a perfect timing for our show here is because Ryan, being a financial expert, you've worked with a lot of athletes, especially NFL athletes. We got CFL free agency kicking off tomorrow. Charleston's looking for a future place to play. Any news on that, Chuck, by the way?
Man, I'm so stressed, bro.
Yeah, you always seem so stressed. Anyway, that's good that we have a financial expert like Ryan joining us today because he can get into maybe something to be able to help you with your stressful financial period. Ryan, let's talk about you. Let's talk about where you're from. How did you get into being a financial literacy expert? And you know, you told me before coming on the show, you're telling me I'm a sports dude. I'm just a dude. So obviously you can see your background there. You got some basketballs. You got some sports memorabilia in the background. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I got my Muggsy Bogues basketball and my Inky Johnson football, and big Tennessee Vol fan. But
nice.
You know, all the stuff that I do right now with the financial literacy is really quite by accident. So I was a college baseball player, blew out my shoulder the last game of my freshman year, and it was nasty. It was a complete reconstructive surgery and basically forced me into an early retirement. And I wasn't a good student at all. So I was, C's to me were like A's. And so I loved them, right? If I got a C, I felt like, oh man, I'm killing it in this class, right? So with baseball being done, I was like, man, I've got to figure out something to do with my life. And internships, and I used some of my baseball connections to the internship in the financial space, and did really good in the internship. And I was matched up against kids that were getting 4.0s and above 4.0s. I don't even know how that's possible, but they were super smart, and so I just outworked them. Right, I used all the skills I learned as an athlete to really just perform in the professional world, and ended up in the top 10 in the internship. They probably had about 2,000 interns there, top 10 for the next 3 years. And that was all in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then I said, enough of this weather, the snow, the cold, the gray skies. I'm done with it. I'm out of here, and I'm going to Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's where I'm at now. And so from 2003, really till even today, I started my own financial planning firm. We're in 5 states. We got a number of advisors. We work all across the country. And I was focused on that. And right before COVID shut the world down, I got introduced to a basketball player from one of the local schools here. He wanted an internship, super sharp kid. And then come to find out, they weren't, he was a finance major. They weren't doing anything finance related. He couldn't answer some of the simplest questions. And it just blew my mind that, a school like UNC Charlotte, it's not a Power 5, but it's not insignificant. I mean, they've got, maybe 20,000 plus kids that go there, and football program, basketball program, all of that. And they weren't really doing anything that was impactful for financial literacy. And so I start putting together a presentation. COVID shuts the world down. And I geared the presentation because it wasn't a book at the time. It was a presentation towards me as a student athlete. The guy that wasn't all that engaged in the classroom. I needed to be entertained a little bit. And I just wanted things simple, right? And so I translated all these financial topics into the language of sports and made it simple to understand. And then I just gave a very easy game plan that you can implement all the topics that I talk about. And sent it to a buddy to review. He sent it to a couple publishers. I get a call from a publisher saying, "Hey, I want to do your book." And I was just like, "No, it's a presentation, right? I don't think it's a presentation to a school. Like, that's all it is." And they're like, "No, you got a book here." And I was like, all right, let's do it. If you say it's a book, it's a book. And so through the process of getting it published, I start getting connected to, a bunch of athletes, current and former athletes. Roy Williams from the Dallas Cowboys, 5-time Pro Bowler, did the forward on it. Anthony Tolliver, 15 years in the NBA, came on late to give his perspective from a pro. Aurelius Ben, wide receiver with the Jaguars, retired with them in 18. And Marcus Ogden, and just the names keep going on and on. And in talking to them, we once we became a prospect in our sport, regardless of sport, once we became a prospect to go to college and beyond, we lived a very, very similar journey. And it was, we played sports, and that was our value to the institution that we played for. And there wasn't a lot of support, life skills support, and teaching us how to be successful beyond sports. That wasn't really being taught. And if you didn't make it pro, then you kind of got left behind, and you either figured it out on your own, or you went back to the neighborhood you grew up in and figured it out. And so throughout this process, these guys are introducing me to their schools and some pro teams, and it just started turning into a financial literacy plus business, and it's really evolved to a ton more now. But I stay in my lane, and I do the financial literacy stuff, but we've branched off into mental health and substance abuse, all taught by former athletes that are now experts in that area. So it's just like when you say, "How do you want me to be introduced?" And I'm just a guy. Like, honestly, I'm just a guy that loves sports, that felt that he could make a bigger impact on the world, and it was through this the financial lane that I stay in. But then now it's adding all these other guys that want to help make an impact and really just change the lives of people. And so it's a presentation that turned into a book that turned into a movement. It's been a hell of a ride. I'll tell you that. It's been a lot of fun.
That sounds like a fucking great journey, Ryan, and something you can tell by your passion and by your smile.
Yeah. I was about to say, at what point did you hit the wow factor and all these players started to come at you and out of nowhere and hit you up about this book?
I mean, I'm still there, right? Like, it's still wow. Like, my wife gets on me because she hears me talking to schools and these guys, and she's like, "All you do is talk football now." I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's a lot of it, yeah, and I love it, but yeah, I'm doing some other stuff as well." So
That's awesome. And one of the things that I think I want to start off with is I'm going to ask Charleston some stuff, then Charles can tell the CFL side of it, right? And Charleston's probably got 1,000 questions. But one of the things that's always baffled me, I've been a sports fan since I came out of, since I was alive, right? So I came out of the womb. I've loved sports, CFL, NFL, NHL, you name it, rugby, soccer. I'm a sports fan, kind of like you, Ryan, right? I love it. I've always looked up to athletes. When I got older, things that really amazed me is that, okay, when Rahib Ishmael signed here in Toronto, the Argos, in the early 90s, the first $1 million contract, getting paid by the Argos, John Candy and Gretzky, these numbers were thrown out there, right? All these athletes signing bigger and bigger contracts. Then you hear about the story that first came out kind of on ESPN's 30 for 30 about, it's titled Broke, about how players could lose all that money. You're looking at the NBA players that went bankrupt. You're looking at the NFL players, that signed these contracts, and you go, how could they go through 30 or 40 million dollars of living earnings right there and be gone? How is that possible? There's no way. And then you start to dive deeper and deeper into that. And Charleston, obviously, I would love to be able to hear your perspective.
I don't know, man. I think I can blow 30 mil.
I know you can. I've been out with you, Charleston. When you go, yeah. He's got a big entourage here in Saskatchewan and Calgary when he comes here and doing that. So
you're saying it like it's hard. I mean, if you want to blow 30 mil, you can blow 30 mil if you wanted to, and not really give a flying fuck.
As a fan, you're always going, how the hell is this possible? But I want to hear the story, Ryan. How did you really start to figure out, or how did you really get in touch with some of these athletes? And what was your kind of like, oh my God, these guys have no clue? Or what was the process there when you were starting to find out some of these stories and say, hey, I got to help these guys?
Yeah, what it really was. So when I was connecting with these guys, it wasn't like I watched them on TV, and it was super cool. But the conversations were just like I'd talk to my friends that they weren't athletes, right? And they were just normal guys trying to figure it out, right? And so they weren't unlike anybody else, entering the real world. They just had a spotlight shined on them, right? And so they were having to figure things out with media and people watching them and reporting on everything they're doing. But they're making the same mistakes that I made with credit cards coming out of school and everybody else makes, right? They're just people, right? And so once that clicked, it was easier for me to really talk to these guys. But when Aurelius Ben, who was actually on Broke, he was part of that. He had a little cameo in there. But he goes, I asked him one day, and I was like, hey, why are you connecting me to all these guys and these schools? And like, I appreciate it. I love it. But you haven't even asked me for, a dime. Like, you're not wanting to be a financial interest in this or anything. Like, you're just making all these introductions. And he goes, man, Ryan, you don't understand. Like, the neighborhood I came from, if they had this information, like the guys that did would be they'd be in a completely different place right now. Like, they went to play D1, and that's great, but they didn't make it. So now they just went back and they are repeating the same cycles that they saw growing up. And the information with how you present it and how simple you make it, like you're changing generational economic cycles that these guys have been stuck in. And it was at that point where I was like, it wasn't a business up until then. He said that, and I was like, damn, I didn't realize that it meant that much, right? Like, it could have that big of an impact. And so from then on, that's when it became a business. And I was like, you know what? This is more than growing a business, right? This is about, like, there's going to be a kid that hears something that I talk about that I'm never going to meet, that he may, instead of, going and playing, D1 or wherever he goes, and he's going to decide, hey, you know what? I can become a doctor because I heard this guy one day say that it doesn't really matter where I came from. I can create, if I can dream it, I can achieve it. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to be a doctor, and he may, cure cancer one day. Yeah. And it's going to be from a seed that I planted that I'm never going to see the tree. And, just knowing that, and maybe I change someone's generational economic cycle, and maybe I don't, but the opportunity to do that is just like, how could you pass that up, right? Like, it's just more impact than growing my financial advising business and all that sort of thing. And they're not getting this information, and so it's crazy to me. And instead of sitting by and pointing out the problem, I'm just going to try and be the solution. So that's long answer to that question, but that's really how it all evolved.
Chuck, what I know, how's your CFL experience been? I mean, we're not making millions like we are like Ryan sees in the NFL or some of his clients, right? Chuck, what have you seen in your playing days? How many years in the CFL now? 12,
I mean,
13?
I've been in the CFL for 13, 14 years, man, and it ain't like I said, it ain't like the NFL. It ain't like most of the guys that come to the CFL, it's just a pit stop. So we go to the CFL thinking that, man, I'm not trying to stay there because they don't make enough money. I mean, the starting salary is used to be 40,000 when I played, but now it's 65. So when you got getting 40,000 Canadian, I mean, when you go back across that border and you pay taxes on that, then you have to pay the exchange rate on top of that. You're crossing the border with
Nothing.
maybe $15,000 to $20,000, and you're running back home saying I'm a professional football player. I mean, it's not much you can be happy about that. I mean, so a lot of guys go through it. If you're a rookie that comes to the CFL, you'll go through it, and it's not a secret. So to make money in the CFL, you really got to put your time in. You got to make plays, and you gotta earn it basically to earn a good paying salary. And like guys in the NFL, I mean, you making millions, you making hundreds and hundreds of thousands right off the bat. You're probably profiting a mill right your first year as a rookie, and that's life changing for some of these guys. But like I said, when it comes to the CFL over the years, what I've learned is a lot of guys don't know much about financial literacy. But being in the CFL, I think it teaches you how to budget. It teaches you some financial literacy because you got to save up
Yeah.
for the other 6 months that you're not playing football. So although you come in not knowing it, after a while you'll learn because you'll see that, man, how am I ending the season with no money? And it's like I'm not thinking ahead of time to save money for the time that I'm not playing football. So it takes some serious budgeting when it comes to CFL.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head though, because it's about thinking ahead, right? And so even with, I'm sure the lifespan in the CFL is pretty similar to the NFL. I mean, you have 3 to 5 years, 5 years if you're lucky, and you're an old vet if you're
CFL
at
is two.
5 years.
CFL is two.
Yeah, it's the thinking ahead, right? And so it's you even though the finances may not be there, right? Like the NFL, it's recognizing that hey, you have a platform right now and how do you leverage that to create future opportunities that you may not have, without that platform. So yeah, you might not strike it rich inside, a CFL contract, but it's a position that you can connect with people and start building relationships for the future. And I think that's really NFL and CFL, really all sports. That's really the piece that a lot of these guys miss, and we cover that a lot is like true brand building, right? Like not just for endorsement deals or getting some cash right now, but it's brand building to build relationships that you can cash in on later on in life, for business opportunities or whatever it may be. It's leveraging your platform wherever you are to take advantage of that.
I think you
And
said,
that's crazy that you even mentioned that because I know for me personally, I built my whole career around that. Like I probably I built my whole career around like, all right, football is gonna be here, but football is gonna be used as a stepping stone to to springboard me to something else. And every teammate, every rookie that I've ever played with know that I'll say this, like, don't rely on football. They look shocked at me because I've never had an off season. I've worked during the football season. I've worked after football. I work every single off season. And it's like they're wondering how am I doing that? And I'm like, man, because football ain't gonna always be there. For me, football is a vacation. Like
Yeah,
you go there,
yeah,
you take a vacation, play the game, and then when that vacation's over, it's back to reality.
I, I like
yep,
I like the way Chuck said that. He said, "Yeah, you know what?" And Ryan, I can attest to that 100%. When I've been around Charleston, when he lived here in Regina and played for the Riders, it was his mentality was brand build. He'd say, Johan, yeah, no, let's go talk to this person. But he was always thinking about something, not just about his profile as a CFL player, but as a person. All the stuff he did for charities, for the communities, he was looking to be able to do things, outside of football. He was looking for work outside of football, in the off season. And Charleston has always been about what's after football and brand building and doing things like that. It's just at a different level here in Canada, in the CFL versus the NFL and what you see down in the States, and to do that. So, Chuck, what would be some of the advice you'd give, or that you would want to ask Ryan about some of the young players that you see now coming up in the CFL? I mean, like Toronto last year, you had Shane Ray, who was an NFL, was he a first-round pick or a fifth-round pick? But Shane Ray was one of the first-round pick. He came, he won a Super Bowl in Denver with Peyton Manning, right, that year. Then he got injured a few years, comes back to the CFL. He was making NFL money. Did you say anything to him financially, or did anybody come to you, Chuck, and say that? Or what do you have questions for Ryan in regards to that?
Oh man, I mean, just based on that alone, I mean, it's tough for those guys because they're coming from the NFL. They're coming from where we want to be as CFL players. So as a CFL player, we want to start in the CFL, springboard to the NFL. So it's only a pit stop, and try to stick if you can. But the thing is that for guys like him who come down to the CFL level, yeah, the pay structure is not the same, but you got to kind of tell them like, look, but you can still get to a spot where you can live comfortably and you can get the things that you need to get in life if you plan accordingly, I guess you could say. I was like, I've been here for 13 years and I've gotten everything that you've gotten within reasoning. I guess you could say. It's just on a different pay scale. So I mean, he bought a house, I bought a house. He bought cars, I bought cars. He had toys, I got toys. And it's just like, you've been in the NFL, so you're on a way different pay scale than me. But I've done the same stuff you've done.
Yeah. Ryan, what's some of the, I want to know one of those questions before we go to break here, but I want to know what's been one of the stories that you can tell that's one of the craziest stories that you remember about an athlete and spending money?
Man, there's so many. I think my favorite, though, is Shaquille O'Neal when he went from Orlando to LA for the first time, right? And he got his 20 million in his bank account, right? And he goes out and he goes to he lands in LA and he's wearing sweats and he's like, man, I need a car. So he gets dropped off at the Rolls Royce dealership and he's looking at the cars and the salesman comes up to him and he's like, I mean, you know how much these cars are, right? Like didn't know who he was, and he's like, yeah, they're like 300 some thousand. And the guy's like, yeah, I don't know. He basically said, I don't know if you can afford them. And Shaq looks at the guy and is like, okay, I'm going to take 3. Right. So right off the bat, he's got $1 million gone off that. And then he's like, man, I need a place to live. And so he's driving around. Right?
There's no way in hell that dude, whoever sold him that car, didn't know who Shaq was.
Back in the day, maybe.
7'2".
He knows now.
300-pound black man walking into a Rolls Royce store,
wearing sweats,
wearing sweatpants, like with a size 30 shoe. You can't tell me that you don't know that Shaq.
That's it's a unique guy that didn't know that. It takes a special person, but he bought it from someone else. He didn't buy it from that salesman, but he spent, he bought 3 of them just to prove the guy wrong, right? And so then he's got to get a place to live, right? He's in a new town, and he's driving around, finds a house, puts an offer, pays cash. So it was like 8 or 9 million right there, and so 10 million's gone, right? He gets a call from his accountant. His accountant's like, he's like, bro, you're out of money, man. You can't be spending that. And he's like, I'm out of money. What are you talking about? just got 20 million. I just spent 10. And he's like, dude, you're in LA now, man. Half that's gone with taxes. Like, you've got like 500,000 left to bridge the gap between now and the next deposit, right? And so it sounds crazy, but 500,000, I mean, that lasts me a long time. But and it lasted him till his next, $20 million deposit. But it just the scale of difference from Orlando, Florida, where there's no state income tax, to Los Angeles, California, where now you have one of the highest state income taxes plus federal and all the other stuff that goes in. 20 million was 10 million, and he had to learn his lesson real quick, which he did. He's got probably one of the best business portfolios out there, from Five Guys burger places to car washes to fitness places. He's on the board of Papa John's now. He's definitely learned his lesson and turned it around. But yeah, I mean, that 10 million in like 2 days, and then to get a call saying you don't have any money left that's crazy.
And that's unbelievable story. That I know that I've followed Shaq too, and I've heard some of the stories of how he's gone in and he tells his kids that that's my money. You're not going to touch my money unless you get 2 degrees, right? If he gets a bachelor and then a master's, then he'll bring him into the conversation of his money. But he tells his kids aren't getting any of his cheese, and to be able to do that, and that's awesome. And then,
I'll be mad as all hell at my daddy. I'm pretty sure they still living very, very nice. Wow. They're just not touching the money.
I don't think they're hurting.
Yeah. But he does have 6 kids, right? So he's got some money to spread out there, and they're going to university, but that's awesome. And I think Shaq is just a very, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't Shaq and some of these players that are good in business are a minority of the ones that are out there, right? Because I know that, Charles, so you can attest to this, so you can tell me, a lot of the players you see, whether that's hockey, CFL guys, their careers come and go, and their money, they're gone. It's bankruptcy. I know a few guys that have. It's just not well financially planned, and they don't have the mindset of Shaq, which is, after his playing days, I think he's making more now on endorsements and deals like that, which is rare to be able to find. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, those guys, I don't necessarily blame them, right? Because they don't get taught any of this. They're fighting for their next contract, right? Like the guy like Shaq that can make the mistakes financially and then is in the NBA long enough to rebound and survive it. That's rare right there.
Yeah.
But this stuff needs to be taught early on to these guys that you don't know how long it's going to be, and you got to make some of the right plans, starting out now in college, so that you can survive some of this stuff.
And that's a great segue that I think we're going to get into. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk to Ryan about his book, because that's kind of about how he's teaching.
I got to read this book.
Yeah, anybody can read it. I think Ryan will tell us it's good for anybody, whether you're in college or after. Yeah. I'm going to read it. I'm going to buy it. But it's great that Ryan's teaching the athletes in college, or it's a book that's kind of for athletes in college, and Ryan's going to be able to help tell us a little bit more about that, and how to make Chuck, his last contract maybe in the CFL, last a little bit longer here. Hopefully we'll see, but we'll see.
Crypto, yeah. NFT. I need to hear all this. I want to hear what you're talking about with all this stuff. Where should I put my money?
Yeah, all these questions we're going to get to. I want to know more about Muggsy Bogues basketball, because he was fantastic, and I loved the little guy, and that was awesome. Him and Manute Bol, when they played on Washington, that was awesome. But we'll get more into this with Ryan right after this on Better with Age.
Hi, my name is Rob Peterson. I'm the broker owner of Realty One in Regina. Real estate and life is about great people, and that's why I'm associated with Charleston Hughes and Johan Zielinski and IKS to sponsor the Better with Age podcast. Realty One was founded in Regina 11 years ago. It's an independent brokerage, it's local, and it's full of great people helping great local Regina people buy and sell properties. It's entrepreneurial based, which means You have non-narcissistic agents that have your best interest in mind, not their own. In these coronavirus times, real estate market right now in Regina and Saskatchewan is thriving because people are thinking more local. They're not thinking about traveling because we can't, and that's driving our market. When you hire a realtor, no matter who it is, no matter what company, please interview them. Please make sure they're a good personal fit for you, because that's what this is all about. It's good people connecting themselves with someone that they know has their best interest in mind. And that's what the Realty One family does, and that's what a lot of agents in Regina do. But make sure you take your time and find the best fit for you and your family.
It's that time of year when divisions are decided, champions are crowned, and legends are born. Now, it's your turn to win big. You've heard the name just about everywhere, MyBookie. They're the industry's leading online sportsbook and casino, and it's not hard to understand why. With thousands of lines to bet on all your favorite sports, NFL, NBA, and college ball. Check, check, and check. MMA and soccer, they've got all the latest odds, period. Take advantage of MyBookie's prop builder and live in-game betting, where every single run, throw, and touchdown is another chance for you to put cash in your pocket. Visit their mobile-friendly website today and get your deposit matched halfway up to $1,000. Just use the promo code when you make your first deposit. The best part is they make it simple, with a variety of ways to deposit instantly, including credit card, bank transfer, Bitcoin, and more. Whether you're at home or on the go, on your laptop or on your phone, it's not too late to make your New Year's resolution a resolution to get paid. Bet, win, and get paid at MyBookie.
Well, that was a wonderful break, and we're back on how to go broke fast.
How not to go broke fast.
Oh yeah, how not to go broke fast.
Yeah. You're thinking about your career. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So I'm definitely gonna lead us off, man, this time, because I got some questions. I got a lot of questions about, financial stuff. I got friends who talk about crypto all the time, jumping in Bitcoin. I did jump in it for a little bit. I made some money, got scared, and took everything out right away. But what do you think about Bitcoin? What do you think about NFTs and crypto and all this crazy jazz over digital money, digital currency?
Yeah, I mean, it's a new world, right? And so I think I always take, I know people that have made tons of money in crypto, are making tons of money in NFTs, real estate, investments, building businesses, right? So my take is, as long as you understand what you're investing in and you spend the time to truly understand it, then you can really make money doing anything, right? And so I think there's cryptocurrencies, and where people get caught up is they see a low price cryptocurrency and they think it's going to skyrocket, right? And there's not a lot of utility behind it. And what I mean by that is it's not really solving a problem, right? So there's cryptos that solve a problem, and there's cryptos that are just cryptos, right? That somebody's making money on. And so understanding the crypto world, and if you're going to put money into it, what problem is this cryptocurrency solving? Like there's some that take like XRP, which is in a big lawsuit, but that's probably the best example I can think of. It takes payment settling between banks and financial institutions from a 72-hour period to 1 second, right? That solves a problem. And so are you investing? Are you getting, is it doing something, right? NFTs they're not going away. And so it's the creativity that especially athletes are going to have as it comes to this. I think eventually real estate's all going to be done with NFTs. You're just going to see athletes that create experiences inside their NFT. So it could be, you get to have a group phone call one time a month if you purchase this NFT with me, or you get to come to a football camp. And they're building in some sort of fan experience inside this NFT. But it's those that stuff's here to stay. I mean, it's new to a lot of people, but it's been around for a long, long time, and that's what people don't realize, especially with this metaverse, right? I think this
That is
metaverse, we're starting to hear about this now, but it's been
yeah.
around for a long, long time, right? It's just now getting to us. And so it's, buying real estate inside this metaverse, the NFTs. It's crazy what this is turning into. I've seen some of this where you're going to be able to shop like you're in a Walmart. You need the head goggles or whatever, but you're going to be able to reach up and grab a can of peanut butter and put it in your cart virtually, and then check out, and it's going to show up at your door. And it's the whole world is changing. It's already changed, and it's going like warp speed now. So you can make money doing it. You just got to understand what you're putting money into, and know that it's not regulated right now. And so, the risk of losing the money and being taken advantage of is out there, right? So don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you want to dabble in it, but understand it first.
Wow. I mean, that blew me away, all that info right there and doing
He
that.
ain't blow me away. He got my wheels turning, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Ask away, man. Ask away then, because
He got my wheels. No, he got my wheels turning because I'm working on my NFT right now, and I didn't even think about just doing all these private events of revolved around the NFT. To kind of push your NFT to boost I guess the purchasing rates of it. So that definitely has my wheels turning.
So now
There you go, right? You're adding value, which price goes up.
Now you got Charleston going, and once you get him going, you won't hear the end of him. Now he's going to be calling you, asking for advice.
You're gonna see a whole Charleston Hughes circus.
Okay, man,
You're invited with NFT. Invited to the circus.
Let's talk about, Ryan. I want to talk about your book. Tell me a little bit about your book, Foundation for Financial Excellence, because that, I think, is one of the things I wanted to talk about, is how you're helping these athletes at the college level get educated, because there really hasn't been. Charleston, you can answer this. When you were in Northwood College, was there any financial advice or a book out there for athletes?
Well, no. There was nothing when I was in college. I guess the one good thing about the university I went to is it's more of a free enterprise type university. So they're big on entrepreneurship and pushing people to own their own business and to rewrite their own stories and to just free enterprise. So not a lot of universities operate like that and push people to be entrepreneurs, which was one of the good things that I really, really, really liked about going to Northwood.
That's awesome. So, Ryan, tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so it's really divided up into kind of two categories, right? Because when talking to a lot of these athletes, I realized that the vast majority, I mean, the stats of going pro in anything, if there's 550,000 NCAA student athletes, you're going to have 12,000 that go pro in something, right? Whatever sport they're in, whether it's Olympics or whatever. So the vast majority are not going to go pro, although they want to, right? And so they were like me. They had dreams of going pro, and they didn't really develop who they were or what their value was beyond athletics. And so the first, 10% of the book is really talking about, hey, you're an athlete, and through competition, starting from 5 years old on, you learned a skill set and skills that Fortune 500 companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year trying to figure out how to hire you, because teaching in the normal world, they can't replicate the stuff that you learned as an athlete. So knowing how to lose and bounce back, have a short memory, that type, really working in teamwork, leadership, and having the experience in doing that, it's so rare among non-athletes, right? And so you have a value. How do you understand who you are, what your skill sets really are, and what industries those might line up to, right? And so you may go to Northwood and learn about entrepreneurship, but that may not be you. You may not be the lead guy, but every lead guy needs a strong number two. right? You could have the best quarterback in the world, and if he doesn't have a good offensive line and receivers, and they don't have a good running game, then he's not going to accomplish anything. And so maybe your job isn't to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, but a lot of guys that came along with him made a lot of money. And so knowing what your value and what your role, beyond athletics could be is a big piece of it. And then we just roll into the finance, right? And so we talk about things like credit, how to protect against fraud and being taken advantage of, budgeting, saving properly, talking about taxes, all this type of stuff. And I just make it so simple to understand. Like credit is your statistics in sports. And the better your statistics are, the longer you can prove that you can stay consistent, the better contract opportunities, the better opportunities you're going to get, whether it's in college, getting scholarships with bigger schools, or even pro. And it's the same thing with credit. The more stable you are financially, showing that you don't really need the credit, the better opportunities from a loan standpoint you're going to get. And so once you make that connection, it's simple to start then building, all right, credit's really that important. I want good long-term deals. And so what do I have to do to build good credit? And so then I just lay out, here's 7 things that you want to do right now that can help you from a credit standpoint. Because what I noticed, and when the presentation actually became a book, I did some research on, just looked up some of the books and what the comments were, and they told good stories, but the general feedback was, you told a great story, but you didn't tell me what I needed to do. And so to be an actual resource for people, I didn't want to be that guy. And I just said, listen, I'm just going to tell you what you need to do. And there's no secrets to it. And here's how this is the problem. This is it explained easily. And this is how you solve the problem. And then I use some, athlete stories and all that to make it interesting and to, draw people in. So you can see how, guys like Mike Tyson all of a sudden had $15 million worth of taxes that he never paid because he didn't know he had to pay taxes, right? Nobody ever told him that. Out of all his entourage, all the people around him, nobody told him he had to pay taxes. And so now he finds himself in a situation where he owes a ton of money and didn't have it to pay back. And people can get drawn into that, right? So you make it interesting instead of this boring like finance talk where you're using all these big words and trying to make yourself sound smart. And at the end of the day, we're all the same. And so let's just, if you like sports, if you like, if you play sports, you're gonna understand the concepts that I talk about in this book. So,
and that's one of the big reasons is that you kind of, and I don't mean to say this in any discouraging way, you dumb it down, right? You basically take, because it's hard to be able to understand financial talk. When I was just in a bank last week, and you're going in there and they're telling me all these different rates and fixed, variable, this, that, okay, how it's going to grow, where's my interest and all that. I'm going,
man, I end up tuning you out in the first 30 seconds. You start talking to me about
exactly. And
hey,
so
before you even finish, my answer is no.
Yeah, I know it. So,
Yep.
But when you're going in to seek help, you need a book like this, or you need some advice that says, hey, I can't understand your language. Just tell me what to do. Help me out. What are the things I need to do that? And you don't even have to be an athlete to be able to relate to your book, right? And that's the best part.
Right. No, you don't. That's as long as you like sports. I mean, really the only reason that it went out to collegiate athletes, it says it on the covers, because the guy that really started it played basketball in college, right? And so I saw the problem being a college problem, and I don't really blame the athletic departments because they get especially with name, image, and likeness now, all of a sudden the responsibility to teach all this gets thrown on the athletic department, and they went to school to learn how to run an athletic department, not how to teach finance and how to teach how to build a brand and all this type of stuff, right? And so they're trying to figure it out too, and so name, image, and likeness hit. That's really why it became a bestseller. But it's for anybody that's into sports that wants an easy way to understand this stuff. Because when I look at it, I've spent 22 years building a financial planning firm, and it to me it's just simple, right? I just see, like you, Chuck, man, you see the game of football really simply, right? To somebody that doesn't have the experience you have, it's more complex, right? You use terms that they're not used to, right? And so if you're into sports, you're going to understand the stuff I talk about in the book.
That's awesome.
I like the way you described all that. Really, even like I said, I'm just thinking just about me, and I know there's other athletes in general that's the same way as I was, especially growing up, not in the best, I guess, environment, so to say. Um, I had no clue about credit. I didn't learn specifically about credit until after college, after university. I didn't know about financial aid. I went into college not knowing about financial aid, not knowing about loans. I remember, and how I found out about credit is while I was playing professional football at this time. I had at a place that I stayed at in university, like a condo. Some lady who owned that condo brought me 3 shoe boxes full of Sally Mae letters. So Sally Mae had been sending me letters from loans that I had during university for maybe 9 years, 7, 8 years, full of
Yeah,
loan paperwork saying, "Hey, pay your loan." I didn't know I had student loans. I thought I was going to
yeah,
university on a full ride scholarship, but I wasn't. And that was stuff that I wasn't taught. I had to get myself into university. I had nobody to guide me when I was there. And the only person that did show me some guidance was my coach. But even then, little stuff like that was like crazy and outrageous. And am I ashamed of it? Heck no. But I know somebody else will probably go through the same thing. Like, bro, I had a lot of student loan debt. And it was like I didn't even know it.
yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm at like the guys that get drafted in the NFL that I talk to, I'm at like 98% of them go to get a car after they get out of school, right? Whether they leave early or graduate or whatever, and they go to finance the car, and the car salesman asks about, all right, what's your credit score? And I can work up a price. And 98% are like, I didn't know what credit was and couldn't get the car because I didn't have any credit. I never built any credit. And so it was either buy a car at like a 20% interest rate or don't get a car. And when your payment, when your interest payment is like 3 times what the actual payment for the car is, like you just kind of say, no, I'm good. I'll go get something, a used Honda Accord or something like that. But 98% went through the exact same thing you did, but just with getting a car, and it's crazy. It's crazy, and it should be such an easy solve. And so that's what we're doing now is through the book, and then one of the big pieces of feedback I got from the players was, hey, we're not always ready to hear this. And they do have some bankers come in and financial advisors come in for a session, right? For an hour session to give a talk. So if they miss it, or if they, something else is going on in their life and they're not paying attention, they need something that's on demand and is ready for them when they need it, right? And so that's what we've done is working with athletic departments to create short 2-3 minute videos that go through and explain all of these topics, and now are even going into mental health, like substance abuse. Knowing, Monty Ball, who played at Wisconsin, running back at Wisconsin, 2,000-yard season, 39 touchdown. He had a killer. He's one of my favorite running backs. Went to the Broncos. He started a charity dealing with substance abuse, teaching kids, hey, this is what it is, but this is what it looks like to get help. Because had he had it, he may still be in the league, and he freely talks about this stuff. But he's going to be in here talking about, hey, this is substance abuse. This is this is what you need to do to get help and all this type. So it's branched off from just financial literacy to serious issues where we have clinical psychologists talking about that just deal with athletes, talking about mental health, and we've got talking about brand building and how to use social media properly to set yourself up for after sports. And so it's really turned it from a financial literacy to now I've got people that are experts in all these topics, athletes talking about what they went through, trying to help the next generation not to make some of the same mistakes they made.
Yeah, that's one of the. I mean, no matter what sports you're looking at, I was just reading about how Wayne Rooney was going through his substance abuse problem when he was playing in Man United, right? And what he was doing, Charles. I know you're not a soccer fan per se, but anyway, this one young athlete, this great stud from England, and when he was young, what he would turn to was substance abuse. He would turn to booze and just drink his way how to be able to cope with things until he turned 36 and had his first son. I think that was a turning point from what I read. But yeah, that's great, Ryan. And the more people I think you can learn that have made those mistakes, unfortunately for them, they've made those mistakes. They've had to live those hard lessons, but we can learn from them, and that's great that we can go and have these resources to be able to learn from them, from their, whether that's, like you said, Ryan, substance abuse or mental health or financial help that we all need, because whether you're playing in the CFL, NFL, Canada, US, Mexico, anywhere, you still, I think, need these resources to be able to help guide us in ways. So that's awesome.
I mean, everyone deals with the same stuff, right? I mean, you don't have to be a pro athlete to deal with this stuff, right? So it's, and I think the lesson, because a lot of times athletes, especially here in the States, they don't get, they highlight, the media highlights the bad because it sells better, right? And they don't realize, the heart that the vast majority of these guys have, and that they are doing really good stuff with their money, and they're trying to help out the next generation, and they're trying to make a difference, right? So there's so much more of that goes on than the bad stuff, except the bad stuff sells a lot better than the good stuff, right? And so all these guys just want to help, and that's the crazy that a lot of people don't get is they all want to help, whether it's another athlete or someone else. They just want to help and they want to make a difference, right? So I mean, that's the if there's a heartwarming message in it, that don't judge the athlete by what you read in the headlines, because many times they're doing so much good stuff that just doesn't get press.
And that's one.
I think the only guys that they do mention in the media that get all the good press is LeBron James, because he's about as squeaky clean as it gets to anything. Patrick Mahomes and Steph Curry. Those are like the squeaky clean guys who get all the pub, all the media, and everything's great.
Chuck, well, you get that big contract, and you get the press, right? So, but it's the guys that are. I mean, there's guys that are league minimum doing crazy good stuff in the community, and league minimum, what in the NFL now is what, $400,000 a year, maybe more. So, I mean, we're not talking about eating ramen noodles every night sort of money, but there's still there are guys that are starting to take this long-term perspective about their career, be smart with their money, but also give back. And they don't get the press that that the Mahomes and the LeBrons get. But so many more of these guys are doing really good stuff. And whether it's CFL or NFL, it's setting yourself. It's figuring out what are you all about, right? What makes you you, not trying to fit into society's stereotypes and all that, and just be you and develop you and your brand, and the deals are going to come, right? Whether it's in sports or outside of sports, you're going to build relationships that are going to pay benefits long into the future.
I think Chuck was great at doing that, and he still is. And you're seeing an example by how he's reaching out and doing a show like this. Chuck is leading the way, I think. So, Chuck, anything else you wanted to ask Ryan?
Yes, Ryan, AYO Sports.
Oh yeah.
So what is your
So,
affiliate? What are you going to bring to AYO Sports?
so I've signed officially, right? And so I'm talking with Richard Jurgen, who he was my favorite story about him. And I got to be careful because I'm trying to get some of these schools as clients. But my favorite story is he kicked Brian Kelly out of. He was committed to Notre Dame, played defense. He kicked Brian Kelly out of his house because he was late for dinner. And Dabo Sweeney was coming in right afterward. So he decommitted from Notre Dame, kicked him out of his house because he was late. I think it's hilarious. I love it. And so he went to Clemson. He won 2 national championships at Clemson and broke his neck in a car wreck and worked his way back. ESPN did a 30 for 30 on him and ended up finishing his football career at Boston College. He and I are talking about doing starting a podcast. So we're going to start doing that. I'm going to start doing once a month or 2 times a month where you get it's a forum somewhat like this where people can log in and ask financial questions, right? So we can start bringing financial awareness, financial topics, education, to people that normally wouldn't be able to get it because they don't know who to turn to. Doing stories about, I'm working on a deal now with some kids in the boxing world, kids of some of the legends that we've seen in boxing that are trying to come up and make a name for themselves on how to build a brand outside of who their dad was, right? And so how to be themselves and build a brand. So doing that type of stuff. And there's stuff that I haven't even thought of that trying to replicate like the bar makeover show that I don't know if you guys have seen that where the guy goes in and turns the bar around, doing something like that financially with guys, right, or families, whether it's athletes or whatever, but giving some of that guidance to them and showing the before and after, right? So all of that type of stuff, man, I'm so pumped. I mean, this AYO Sports platform, I just think it's brilliant, and I'm super excited for the official launch to officially get content on there because it's a bunch of people that are trying to do they're just trying to do good and trying to provide content that is going to help people. And I'm excited to team up with people that have the same mission and vision that I do, because only good can happen from that.
Yeah, that's awesome. We look forward to being part of the team too with AYO, and we look forward to hearing more from you. I want to ask you before we go, Ryan, who's your pick in the Super Bowl?
Man, I am indifferent, right? And so I say that only because I grew up being strong allegiances to teams, right? And I think I've matured in the standpoint of I just like seeing good games and I enjoy seeing people create stories, right? So whether it was Tom Brady, had he not retired and won another one, I could get over the fact that he's won so many because that's a hell of a story, right? And you're not going to see that ever again. And so I love the Joe Burrow story. I love the story, right? Leaving Ohio State, Heisman, national champion, getting to the Super Bowl and winning, potentially winning the Super Bowl, being the first guy to do that, right? Coming back to the home state. And at the same time, I can appreciate what Matthew Stafford put up with for all those years in Detroit with a team that has not been run well.
That's what I mean,
wasted talent all around. Right, so to go to LA and have a shot at winning it.
Matthew Stafford, and I think he has a Cinderella story written in his name right now that he went to the Rams and won the Super Bowl without Detroit Lions. It's just too good to be true.
It is,
It makes it so bad. Johan, no, I don't like him.
I know, and that's the thing. I go, Chuck, how can you not like Stafford? You're a Detroit Lions fan. He was there for how many years? And he's like, nope, don't like him. So that's okay. I'm jumped on the Cincinnati Bengals bandwagon, so we're Who Dey Nation over here at my place, at our place. My buddy Ryan Larson's a original Cincinnati Bengal fan, for many years. So I love the Joe Burrow.
What I wanted, I love Joe Burrow. So I'm going to pull for the Bengals, but I'm good either way, right? There's good stories. You would have been perfect for the Bengals is if the Niners won and they would have gone to their third Super Bowl and finally beat the 49ers because they lost their first two to Joe Montana and the 49ers. So that would have been like the ultimate right there, but it wasn't in the cards. So.
I don't think the Cincinnati Bengals would have taken that because to lose 3 in a row to the 49ers, they would have never been able to recover, I think, from that. But I think
they would have had to win. They had no choice but to win.
Yeah. But I think, like Charleston says, Chuck, who you cheering for? Oh, I guess you're not going to cheer for Stafford. So you're Who Dey Nation.
I don't got no choice. It's a Cinderella story. He got to win.
No.
If he don't win, the Rams going to let him go.
No, they won't. They might let some of the other players go because of the cost-wise. I think they're going to be, do they bring back Von Miller? They bring back... they're going to have some free agents that
they went all in to win it.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm taking the Bengals by 2 points. I think the field goal, their kicker, McPherson, is such a stud. I think he's going to nail it. Come down to the last section, he'll hit like a 64-yard field goal to win the game for the Bengals. That's your Cinderella story.
Hey, I may not. Hopefully I don't jinx them. But if you remember that Adam Vinatieri when he did the money thing and then he missed it, right? So these kickers got to watch out. They get a little bit too big of a name and a little bit too much media, and then that stuff happens. So,
And speaking of jinxing, I'm not allowed to even bet on the Bengals because my buddy says that I've jinxed them. So I have to bet on the Rams this weekend, but I'm pulling for the Bengals. So anyway, that's my financial tip for today's segment here. I don't know if it's worth anything, but Ryan, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to, there's so much more we could have asked. I know Charleston's buzzing right now because he could have asked about 10 more questions.
Buzzing, man.
We could have kept you on for another few hours, but we really appreciate the time to be able to come on our show, educate our viewers. So you'll probably get hopefully some people that are going to look you up, buy your book. Where can we buy your book?
So it's on Amazon. So just go to Amazon Foundation for Financial Excellence, and I appreciate it. I loved it. This was one of the more fun shows that I've done. So I love it.
We aim to be able to have that lighthearted conversation and to do that. And with Chuck, you never know what the hell he's going to say.
Going broke fast.
So we wish you all the best, Ryan. Thanks for coming on our show. We're going to have all kind of your information on all our social media platforms to be able to get everybody to kind of, if they want to find out more, they'll know where to find you. So at the end of the show,
awesome.
we always let Chuck give some final words of wisdom.
Thanks for coming on the show, Ryan. We really do appreciate that. And I'm just going to close it out by saying this is the Better with Age podcast. The reason we call it the Better with Age podcast because there's many things that get better with age. There's wine, there's whiskey, there's my financial bank account, there's my portfolio gets better with age. There's many things that get better with age, but the most important thing of them all is friendship. Now that you've been on the Better with Age podcast, you are one of our friends, and we appreciate you.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, all the best, Ryan. Enjoy the Super Bowl.
All right, y'all too. Talk to you later.